And our next guest is behind the scenes. Bruce, just give me a thumbs up when you're ready. Thank you. Welcome to the stage, Bruce.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. I hear you're already talking about the heart, so that's right in my
Oh,
wheelhouse. So that's wonderful.
oh, I
Ooh.
can't wait. Okay. But before we dive into that, I like to shake things up a little because I want to get to know who Bruce is well before we get to know your message and your business and all the other cool things that you have planned so that we have some sort of context and a place to grow from. So here's my question. If you could have other people describe you in 3 words, what would you love those 3 words to be?
Kind, enthusiastic, uh, connected.
Kind, enthusiastic, and connected?
Mhm.
Okay. So then how do those 3 words, kind, enthusiastic, and connected, why do they play a key role in that core message that you have for people?
Well, I am a heart-led leader, helping people to become the best version of themselves. So each one of those is totally integrated within that. Um, Businesses are a living, breathing organism. Kindness fits into that because people um, demand care, compassion, kindness, um, enthusiasm, because we also want to be entertained, inspired, and so that we can hear the message. So that higher energy vibrational level of enthusiasm allows people to receive the message in a positive way. Um, um, and what was my other one? Connected? Oh, well, I mean, it's all that's at the
All
basis of
connected.
everything, isn't it? It's integrating logic and feeling. So without that connection, you can't. They the rational mind and the feeling intuitive heart can't talk to each other without them being connected. So that's how I
And
would
I
answer
just
that.
like hone in on that idea that you just said there, which seems so incredibly, hmm, how should I say this? Expansive in nature. I'll use that term.
Okay.
With the idea that logic and feeling are really interconnected. I can't tell you the amount of conversations where somebody's trying to go, oh, it's all about logic, or oh, it's all about feeling, and they just choose a side, not understanding that they are very much woven together. You can't really have one without the other.
Well, I would suggest
Your
that you
point.
can.
Yeah.
In fact, my message is is about most leaders don't lead. They are reacting. They are um, working with only their logic brain. They have a courage, but it is based on what they can put on a spreadsheet. I work with a lot of restaurants, for instance, and they are looking at controlling food costs. They're looking at sales. They're looking at transactions. They're looking at turnover. All things that can be logically looked at, and they believe that telling people what to do and giving them the training to do that to impact each one of those metrics will allow them to change those metrics. The distance from the head to the heart takes a different kind of courage because you can't to integrate those the logic based leader is becoming extinct because we work on feeling. We're emotional beings. We need to integrate both our intuition, our care, our concern, our need for validation, um, together with together with the rational mind. And the leaders that are evolving, the heart-led leaders that are evolving will be able to do both. And it just takes a different kind of courage, because you got to step out on faith when you're integrating your heart together with your head. Because it's not something that you can easily put down on a spreadsheet immediately.
So
I
if
don't
you
know if that
could
answered your
kind of
question.
but if you could kind of like package up your core message a little, something that's easy for us to copy paste or share with other people, what might that core message be?
That feelings guide choice and direction, and logic guides rational thought.
Can't write that fast. Feeling guides choice and direction. And then logic guides, sorry?
The
Or
rational.
rational thought. Yes, okay. This is why at one point I stopped taking notes, because I want to take notes on everything, but then when I try to write fast, it's super messy. I can't write that fast. I can type fast now, but I can't write that fast. It's like I've forgotten that skill of how to move my fingers correctly. It's fine.
I
It's
still
fine.
use pens too.
Oh yeah, the written is so much better.
Mm-hmm.
I love that message. So feeling guides more of our choices and our direction. I like that idea of the North Star of like, where am I supposed to go now?
Mm-hmm.
Versus the logic being that rational thought. I'd love to get your take on a conversation that we had yesterday around where thought comes from, and like how can we understand what thoughts are ours and what thoughts are somebody else's, so that we can have a bit of that separation between the expectation of like the outward expectation and then knowing who we are and how to grow that. What's your take on thoughts?
Well, that's a big question.
Yeah, I
The
know.
I love the
It
big
is me.
questions. I think thought is intuition. That's probably making it too simplistic, because it is a big question. Where does it come from? But I think it's grounded in our intuition. And what we've learned about the heart, and I think that's where it comes from. I think it comes from our heart. We know now that the heart has brain cells in it. We know that it has an electromagnetic field, that it is attracting like to us. So I think thought comes from the heart primarily, and it's based on our intuition. When you look at personal development and spirituality, and even leadership studies, we're more and more we're getting the message that it is our feelings, our emotions, our heart, that if you keep hearing this thing, open your heart. And in one aspect, that is difficult to what does that mean? Open my heart, open my heart. But I think it is relaxing enough to allow your feeling self to tie into the unconscious, the quantum field, this other place, this bigger than us, um, that informs our direction. If you're religious, that can be God or Allah or Buddha or something like that. Those inspired beings that were the best of us, but we all have that ability to stop, to breathe, to listen, and go inside and hear what is where something is trying to lead us. So I think intuition is where, when you stop and when you listen, it's your intuition that tells you what's authentic to you, what feels right to you, what feels true to you. And so I know that I'm rambling a bit, but I think it comes down to opening your heart, listening to it, and listening to the intuition and the messages that brings you. That's where thought comes from.
I like that as a guiding point to see like, are my thoughts of somebody else's voice from my past? that I have now taken on as my own inner voice, which it's not, and then creating thoughts based on that versus the thoughts that was in my own. It's like, is it actually aligned with who I am instead of what I think other people have been telling me? Do like
Well,
that.
man, you can go in a whole different direction there if you believe that we are all one. And I
Yeah.
do. You know, we're
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
a
Oh,
drop
okay.
within that ocean. So those thoughts are both ours and the greater consciousness, you know. So yeah, they're
Mm.
both somebody else's as well as
Yeah,
our own. Yeah,
that's so
both at the same
interesting.
time. That's the paradox, isn't it?
So you talk
Nothing
about leadership a
is
lot.
exactly our own. It's
Mm.
an informed consciousness that because truth is truth. It's, you know, and there's very few, I think, really true things. There's my truth, there's your truth, you know, where I was born is my truth, where you were born is your truth, but there's a deeper truth about what is right, what is whole, what is um not debatable. And that is in one consciousness. It's so that can be my thought, it can be your thought, and it can be Tammy's thought all at the same time.
You mentioned leadership, and I haven't asked this question in a while, but I think it's very relevant for where we're kind of playing in this conversation. Is where would you like the conversation around leadership to go in the next year or 5 years?
I'd like it to go to heart-led leadership. I'd like leaders to become braver. I'd like them to use the word love more in guiding people. In the past, we know that leaders used to say, you know, leave your personal problems at the door, and it's such a naive thought process because we bring our whole self to our work. The argument we had with our spouse or the fun that we had on the walk with the dog comes to work with us, and it informs all of our decisions that that we make and the way we interact, because all of life is just relationships, and so businesses are relationships. You, so I would love to see leaders embrace the whole person, meaning that they come to a realization that without people, their business doesn't exist. And therefore, to build that relationship with people, whatever that takes, people will run through walls for you. If but it's a naive and a simplistic leadership trait in this time in our life, in our being, to think that people are widgets and we're only here to to produce to a certain level to get sales and transactions. The businesses that will succeed in the future um, will embrace the whole being, meaning the logic of the brain and the feelings of the heart. Those are the leaders that will build their businesses and enjoy doing it at the same time.
What inspired you to get into this work? Why not just become, I don't know, a plumber? Because I have water right beside me. First thing I thought of. Why not
A
become a
plumber?
plumber, Bruce?
I could become a plumber. Yeah, I got nothing wrong with being a plumber. Again, because it's all about people. My background over 30 years, starting as an educator and then going into advertising, um, and 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 then, you know, becoming an entrepreneur and, you know, but it's always been, the passion has always been about people. Um, how do we interact with each other? Because we're all going to get there, or none of us are going to get there. Back to that all is one thing. So it doesn't matter whether I'm a plumber or whether I'm a craftsman or whether I'm a gardener, or it's all about people. So it doesn't really matter.
I started in architecture. Tammy started in the RCMP. Maybe not started, but that was part of your journey. I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know where you were before that. It's like we all it seems like everybody who becomes an entrepreneur, we all started somewhere else. And
Mhm.
maybe there's multiple steps to that before we become an entrepreneur. Who knows?
Yeah.
But there's always something that kind of shifts us into why is it that we want to work for ourselves? Why is it that we have this message? Why is it that we want to serve the people that we want to serve? So is there a reason why you are targeting leadership instead of the like end line workers?
Well, I've worked with the end-line worker as well, and that's obviously, but that informed my leadership. Leadership, whether you're the end-line worker or whether you are in charge of a group of people or a company of people, it doesn't really matter. You are the leader of yourself, your family, your relation, again, it's always relationship. So it's the relationship that you have with yourself where you lead, or if you have the ability and the honor of informing and influencing other people with your vision, then that's wonderful too. It's leadership isn't a title. It isn't a position. It's a way of thinking. It's a way of being.
I come from a policing background, so I appreciate you saying that because, with the rank structure, there's a lot of people that have rank that I do not consider leaders. I worked with people who had less rank than I did at certain points in my career, and they were real leaders because they had those so-called soft skills, which now are called power skills. And I think that that's so important. And your message about heart-centered leaders, I would love to see more of that in policing. And that's something I've talked about with people, that everything starts at the top. And when you have hard leaders and you have people who are not using the kinder skills, it trickles down to your front line. And that's what we're seeing in some agencies, I believe, with
Mhm.
the lack of kindness, perhaps, or,
Mhm.
some of
Yeah.
what we see in the media.
I totally agree with you, Tammy. There was, but remember when we were in Afghanistan, or the United States was in Afghanistan, there became this aha moment when the troops were asked to relate to the citizens within the towns that they were occupying, with the belief that with those power skills, I'm so glad that we're not using soft skills because it's a misnomer. It belittles the power that is in the relationship that we have between each other. They were asked to go out and make relationships with the children, the women, the men of that community, believing that if they could be human to human, then they would not become enemies. They would understand each other better, and they would resolve the issue, whatever that issue was, to be more aligned together. So I really liked that. It made sense to me, and it talks to exactly, I think, what you're bringing up, Tammy.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I've seen it firsthand. When you walk into a place that I'm here to fix or I'm here to settle, instead of I'm here to listen, I'm here to help, totally changes the dynamic. And, I've seen some really great police officers that did a lot on their own time to be a part of a community. And I
Mm-hmm.
think being a part of is a true leader, not
Yeah.
just dictating at the top.
Yeah, yeah. That's again your rational mind saying, right, I have the badge, I have the position, I have the authority. Makes sense. I can go in and tell you what to do and fix this. But what the irony is, I will follow you if you stop, if you encourage me to breathe, if I'm the one that's, in a bad frame of mind. And if you have the opportunity to be able to do that, um, it resolves the conflict beyond the moment. It changes the way that that person, me in this case, will interact going forward. Not
Oh,
only with the
definitely.
police officer, but with whatever has caused me angst.
Teachers, principals,
Cemetery.
if you're dealing with your students and your own child, yeah.
Mhm.
It's so true. When we meet with kindness and we work out from there, we can resolve. When we meet like this, we might walk away trying to figure out who won, but you don't resolve and you're always coming back at the same place. Whereas if you meet once in kindness and you establish that, yes, I'm here in an official capacity, but how can I be of service? And I think that's the missing point. And then, like you're talking about, and then let's have a conversation. And maybe we can't solve the world or this whole problem, but at least we can try to be an equal and have a conversation so that the next time you meet, you already are on a similar ground. And they know that, and I've had the experience going back to the same places more than once. They know that I'm there, but they have somewhat respect for me because I didn't rush in, I didn't take over or hurt anybody. And I think that that skill,
Mhm.
some people thought, it's a weakness when you're too nice to people, but it's not because it comes back tenfold and it becomes a real strength in times when things are really rough. The ability, like you shared with the military, to be able to sit and talk and play with a child. I did that when I worked in remote communities. And when you have the children trusting you, the community trusts you.
Yeah. And when you can establish that, right, Tammy, then it's much harder for me to hate you. When we've got some sort of trust that, you know, whatever that is, and I use it a lot in seminars when we will spend just a few minutes and find out where our commonalities are. We both like dogs, we both like, you know, Chinese food or whatever that might be. It seemingly insignificant things like that establish a connection. And that's what we're
Mm-hmm.
trying to do with Heart-Led Leaders. We're trying to establish a connection. Now, the beauty about military or police officers is when we're disjointed, when we're emotionally unstable for whatever reason, to have an authority figure present gives us that structure. And because they walk in with a badge that says and a uniform that says, I am the leader in this situation now. I've been called in because we've lost our way. Um, but it doesn't mean that they need to take it off of military or police officers, because you know a lot more about that than I do. But in a leadership role, if I've got the CEO position or I've got the area coach position, yes, I am the final say because that's the way the structure has been set up. But I don't need to use it, to your point. I don't need to use that necessarily. It's much better if we get there together and we create a win-win situation, because that trust in that relationship is much stronger. And then if you just tell me what to do, I'm going to do it, but I'm not going to like it, and it's not going to become something that's going to stick. I'm going to be cogitating in my brain about all the bad things that you did and how you used force rather than
Mm-hmm.
power. And the soft skills are power skills, to your point, because what they do is they allow me to get there on my own together with you. I retain my dignity. I build my self-confidence because you, as the leader, are allowing me to breathe and find my own way with your leadership guidance to get me there. And I come out of it as a stronger individual and much more respectful of your leadership. And I'm going to be much more in tune with trying to help you get what it is you want to do, whether that's peace in a community or sales in a business. Help
Exactly.
me to understand who I am and come back to myself. Don't just tell me and make me do it. Help me to find my power. And that's
Yeah.
what heart-led leadership is. It's the
Right.
logic together with the feelings.
Mm. So you're creating a team as opposed to a hierarchy in a business.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. 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 You're creating
I'd
a
love
team.
to play the devil's advocate just for a moment.
No
Just-
way.
I love your facial
Oh,
expressions.
I'm like,
Not Miss Laura.
must be the red hair. Okay, but here's my question. I'm thinking of the other side right now who are going to say, but leadership, the way that I've done it has always worked. We're doing great. Why should we change? And add that layer of, okay, for those who are thinking about, well, what is better for me in my business? How can we, I guess, add more proof to the concept, to this concept, that it is more profitable? It does help you grow. It's that expansion that you've been looking for. But like, how do we have that conversation with those people who are not there yet? I'll just say it that way.
The 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 short answer is you don't, because they have proven it works. You can force me to do something, and it's worked for a long time. I mean, the grit and resilience leadership style, I call it hammer and nails, has worked for a long time. It comes out of a Western European white society where we were in a factory and we were putting nuts on bolts. And we needed to do that. And they needed to use us in that factory until we broke down. And therefore, the word retirement came in, just like a piece of machinery. When that person could no longer put nuts on bolts at the pace that that factory owner needed, then they just replaced that person with another widget. And that came over to the United States or Canada, and anyway, and it served its purpose because there was nothing here. We needed people that would work long hours and create and build roads and shelters, etc. It's not that it doesn't work. It's that its time has come. It's those people, you can push that rock up the hill, and I have with businesses a lot of my life and career, and they will intellectually say, of course, I want my team members and my employees to be happy. Of course, I want them to enjoy their job. Of course, I want them to make a living wage. Of course, I want that. The trick is the distance, that 18 inches from the head to the heart. You have to find that leader that has evolved beyond that feeling that they want to create a better world. They want to create a better place for all of us. Those leaders that are just working with their rational mind, they can be successful. To tell them they're not would be illogical. They have been successful. The trick is to find enough of those leaders that realize that there's more. We live in a we serve each other better when we use both our head and our heart. And because it's not just about having a successful business. I mean, if I'm a business owner, that's my goal. And it is a longer term positive outcome if you work with both the head and the heart, and you combine those two, those intuition and the rational. But it's probably a step of evolution, to find enough of us that are talking about it this way, that where it resonates with leaders, that we move into our next level. Rather than using people, we develop people. And as we develop people, we develop businesses. And as we develop businesses, we develop societies. And as we develop societies, we develop cultures. And as we, it's a it becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy that we create a world that is better for all of us. But of course, we can burn it all down. Of course, we're doing quite nicely.
I would also challenge anyone that thinks that the power skills that we're discussing aren't necessary, that, I can tell people I own the company, I can tell them what to do. I challenge them to look at their own statistics and the mental health of their employees. Because statistically, if you're working for a boss who is, for lack of a better term, unkind, we'll just say, instead of what came to my mind, potty mouth. And you're going to have a higher turnover of employees. You're also going to see more employees booking off sick days than other places. And I know personally people who have left companies and taken on roles in other companies with a reduction in pay purely because of the culture they were leaving and the culture that they were going into. And I challenge people to look at those numbers, because happy people are more productive people. They are more willing to advance ideas. If you're at the person at the top and you only bark orders and don't have conversations, you might be missing out on so many great ideas and opportunities that could grow your company exponentially. But if you sit at the top with I am the boss, I know everything mentality, you're going to go the way of the dodo. Like, you're just going to fall off the cliff eventually, or somebody that wants your job will push you off it, because that's the mentality you created.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Tammy, and you're right. The statistics show it. To the churn and burn is again becoming extinct. It's not that I can't continue to do that, but if you're refusing to use your logical mind to put your turnover numbers and your training numbers, because I don't become actually productive on day one. I'm more like 6 months down the road that I'm actually being able to produce the way you wanted me to when you first hired me. But of course, there's uniform costs, there's training costs, there's productivity costs, there's culture costs. Like, how do you fit into that team? You don't just slip a new person in and they become part of the team. Because you're dealing with people. There's this whole hiring, that starts at the interview process, that what we really should be doing is taking our HR people and training them better on it. Like, I work a lot with companies to that point about what is your vision? And I don't mean raise sales 10%. It's this aspirational, somebody said earlier, North Star idea that who are we? Because what you realize eventually is time is life. And as I'm older, it's become really clear to me that where I put my time is where I'm literally putting my life. So, and we're only given so much of that. And so I want to work with a company that is doing something larger than itself, that is looking after its people, that is caring about who I am and what I think and what I do. And you're right, Tammy, if you give me that, if you allow me to learn and grow, then I'll bring you ideas and I'll bring you my very best of who I am to that position. And that will allow us to grow as a company. It allows me to grow as a person. It allows us to grow as a team, a community, a species. But you're right. And money is probably third or fourth on the list. Leaders that don't get it think I'm leaving because I can go down the street and they offered me $1 more an hour or whatever. It's not. It's that by the time that I've decided to leave my position, it's because of who I work with that has not given me the respect, that has not given me the dignity, that has not asked for my opinion, that has not respected me as a person. that I'm like, screw it. They're going to give me $1. I'm not going to deal with it anymore, but I'm leaving because of you and the way you treated me, not because I'm getting $1 more an hour or $10 more an hour. That's just the easy answer. But leaders that are not thinking as heart-led leaders see it as a statistic. Oh, they're paying them. Well, they obviously went for the money. It's not that. It's never that. No, I mean, maybe if it's $100,000 more, maybe it is, right? But it's very seldom that. It's that I'm not getting what I need as a person, as a heart-centered person.
I want to add to what both of you said, and then we'll ask you, Bruce, where to find you. Because Tammy brought up the idea of mental health in the workplace with all of this turnover. For those at home, I'm assuming both of you already know this. When we are stressed, whether it's physical stress, emotional stress, spiritual stress, whatever the stress, that thinking part of our brain that helps us do our job, it's on vacation. Good luck. Okay. You want us to be productive and that part shut off? Imagine what we could be like if you helped minimize our stress, treated us like a human being, and this thing turns back on and aligns with our heart, and together we're working for something and someone that we care about. Sky's the limit.
Sky's the limit. Mm-hmm.
Sky's the limit. Okay. Like even that one little piece of information, imagine if your people could think. I'm just going to leave it there. Bruce, where can we find you? Because this is so important. And what is your favorite way to communicate?
Well, you can go to my website, which is W. Bruce Cameron Consulting, and that will give you opportunities to see my speaking and things like this, as well as how you can interact with me and how you can connect with me. Phone number is 312-952-9952, and you'll see that on the website as well. I like to communicate either by phone or text or email, and email is bruce@wbrucecameronconsulting.com.
Nice. And then I always like to hold space at the end of an interview, just in case there's something on your mind or in your heart that you would love to share. So what would you love to leave people with today?
I think it actually, maybe it goes back to what you initially asked me about the 3 words that people would describe me as.
You said kind, enthusiastic, and connected, just FYI.
I think kind is the message that I would leave for all of us. We will not only achieve more as a business, as an organization, as a family, as a partner, as an individual moving through this world, if we are kind to each other. And that kindness doesn't have to be big. It can be as small as a smile, as small as a nod when you or eye contact when you meet somebody, because although we're each experiencing our own journey, there's a part of us that are experiencing it together. And I think if we could just be kind to each other, then it makes it better for all of us. It makes it better for you because of the energy that you're putting out and getting back, but it makes it better for that other person. And that is, something Tammy said earlier. We do change the world. And I just truly have come to believe that if you're kind to one person and you have made the world better for that one person, and therefore you've changed the world. We do it by doing it one person at a time.
Aw, I love all of that, Bruce. So how we've been ending the interviews this week is we're just saying cheers, and we hold up whatever cup we have or not have, either way. Cheers to you.
Cheers.
I so appreciate you being here. And I will call this the official close to the main part of our interview. Thank you, Bruce.
Thanks so much, guys. I appreciate it.